Hello, I'm Dwehaus. We're going to be painting and trying to figure out how to emulate the look of oils with Photoshop. So Photoshop comes with almost 2,000 paintbrushes, and you don't really know how they work until you experiment with them and use them. You got to try them and get a feel for them and figure out what you like and what's going to get the look you want. So I've been trying to do quick oil sketches on a daily basis for about 30 minutes a piece. We were working on Crystal, which is one of the Inktober prompts for day one. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I work on a larger, longer piece, and it's a little bit less experimental, but we're trying to make the look of oils nevertheless. So here's where we are, and let's jump in and see what we can do for tonight. I'll be here for the next few hours. Feel free to introduce yourself and ask any questions that you have as we go along. I'll be trying to watch the chat. So, let's see if everything's working how we anticipate. We left off yesterday with these legs, and I didn't really care for the anatomy of them, so I kind of changed it around a little and tried to make it work how we wanted. So, let's zoom in here. I'll try to tell you all the finger commands that I'm using as we go. One thing that I wanted to do is change the lighting a little bit on this face. So I brought in some references of kind of the lighting that we're looking for, and we'll see if we can't enhance the lighting. I feel like I'm sitting in a hole. I changed my seat around to help me not put as much pressure on my back. But now neither of these references are exactly the position. This is kind of an unusual position, but we'll see if we can't get something that's close enough to give us an idea of the lighting. So far we've done the lighting just on our own estimation of what the light would be like as it came skirting across from the sun up here. And this is what we got. We built a little wireframe and we kind of laid out what we thought the lighting would be. But I think I want it to be a little more intense. You notice both of these are really intense. And that's kind of more the look I want. I also want the face to kind of have a little more roundness. So I think if we add some more light on these top cheeks and bring the light down, spilling around, that's going to help it to feel rounder. So we are now at 200%. Probably stick to 100%, so we have a better idea of the size and scale of what we're working on. So down here, you can open this up, and we can make a new layer probably, just for this lighting experiment. So I really like the gold bright lights that we used the other day, and I think I want to kind of go in that vein again and have some really strong golden light. Now these are all the brushes that Kyle's made that are available for free in Photoshop. I'm going to make sure this is turned off. It is. So you can download these. Go up here, get more brushes, and you can download all the same brushes that I have. And we were using the Bristly Bob brush. I would like to continue to experiment. We also used the cake brush, Cake Thick. Let's try something with a little texture. We'll try this flat bristle brush. That's the thing about doing this in Photoshop, is that in a normal real live oil painting, you know, the brush gets loaded up, it has different densities, different thicknesses, and the paint just kind of blends and mushes around. And so I really like that quality. I really like how that happens here with these blender brushes, but that won't happen in this case because we're working on a separate layer. So let's see, we're not using these color swatches, we're using these blender brush swatches, which are up here. So we need to eyedropper that. We have to find where the right layer is to pick up that color. Probably right here. Actually, I want it off the legs. I want it off this bright shine of the legs. I'm going to take this color right there, see? And then we'll come back and we'll apply that to this layer. I'm going to go ahead and name it now so I don't forget what it is. Face shine. Alright. Awesome. So I think this brush that I picked does not follow me, so as I move around, it always stays flat. It doesn't follow how I orient. So I want to pick one that does move around with me. Kind of wanted something that had a little texture in it, though. Let's see. None of these brushes follow me. I really want that effect. This kind of does. This does a little bit. Let's see what we can do here. Maybe this bristle cut brush. That one wouldn't matter. It's kind of non-directional. All right. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. So that right off the bat looks kind of awful, but let's see what we can do. I'm using my open and close brackets to change the size of my brush. If I use Shift open and close bracket, I can change the softness. See this up here? I can change the softness of my brush just with Shift open bracket and close bracket. So I'm going to go something, there's hard, I'm going to go something just kind of in the middle and take this back down again. Open bracket. Make this really soft now and a little bigger. And then I think I want to come in with some of this white. Oops, can't do that with the. And I want to use this. No, that was too pokey. Let's try this bristly bob brush and a little smaller. I think I want to go a little whiter and a little warmer. Maybe even whiter. And then I want, I think, some of that to catch on the lip. And let's say a little right here. Alright, and then we'll blend it in. Let's try this wet blender. I almost never use that one, but I think that'll be a little more subtle than the Thrasher, which is what I usually use. Let's try the Thrasher now. I do like the quality of this. Take back down here. Take this one, real small, just gonna line in a little detail here on the nose. A little bit. Yep. A little bit of brown. We're still working essentially on one layer in a way, because we're doing all of this now on one layer. Interesting, this brush has quite a bit color variation in it. It's interesting. I really like this color. There's a lot of people online tonight, it looked like. A lot of people streaming. Let's see if that makes a difference. We can zoom out a little. Definitely a lot more shine going on compared to this. We just have to decide how much of that we actually want. I think I'm going to make it a little less intense. In fact, we might even be able to split it. So I'll hit Command J, and then we'll erase with the eraser this top half. And then we'll come down here on this one, and we'll erase all of the bottom half. And then we can set independent percentages. So we'll turn this one off for a minute. Oh, whoops. We erased them both on the same layer. So we don't want to do that. Alright, so there's one. There's Alright, Command J, turn this one off. Okay, so now we have just one, and on this one we will erase, say, the top half. Just like that. Nothing, okay? And let's duplicate this again. Command J, and on this one we'll erase everything but, say, the ear, maybe. Okay, and then on this one we've got the face, and we'll erase everything up here. Okay, so now I've got these on 3 separate layers. So now I can say, okay, I want that to be maybe toned down, but I want this one, which is the ear, maybe put down just a little bit, but not as much. And then this one, oh, we did 2 faces. How did we manage to do that? That's super annoying. I guess we need to label them, apparently. Still undoing. Alright, there we go. So each of these are whole. Yep. Alright, so I'm going to make a third one, Command J. Okay, and I'll make a fourth one just so I don't have to go back again. So this one is Face Shine Original. And what's nice is we can experiment with this. And then this one we'll do is Ear shine. We'll do forehead shine. And we'll do face shine. Okay, so there we go. So this one's going to stay off. On ear, we want to erase everything but the ear. Make a brush a little bigger, and get full strength. And there, everything's gone but the ear. Okay, now the ear I want to be at like 70% of maximum. And we'll go back to eraser, make exit maximum, and then we'll go to forehead shine, and this time I want to erase the cheeks and stuff. Okay, I'm kind of feeling that already. Looks a little better. Okay, now on my forehead shine, we'll go like almost maximum. Maybe we'll turn it down to just like 90%. 100% though, kind of feeling 100%. Okay, now base shine. Here's the last one. So on this one though, you should have ear, head, ear. Okay, this one's everything, but we only want it to be the face. So go back to brush, or sorry, back to eraser, which is E, and full strength 0. And then I'm going to erase the nose and the forehead. And any highlights over here plus the ear. Okay, so now that we've got it all labeled, we know what we're doing. Turn these back on. And now we can get a feel for how much we want for the face shine. The face shine, I think I'm going to set, I'm going to hit about 50%. I think I like that. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I think I like that. Let's zoom in. Let's see if there's any of this kind of subtle detail that we want to add. Now this one's a little different because his neck and stuff is bent differently, so the lighting's going to be a little different. I think we've kind of captured what I want to capture here. Got this like trap shadow, which is like this right back here. We've got this shadow coming up here. We've got kind of this bulge shadow here, and some highlights coming in where these tendons come in. So I think we're good. I think on this forehead shine, I think I'm going to tone down the mouth here a little bit. Put it in a little bit more shadow. I think what I want is to have the nose be casting a shadow. And I think I want these lips to be casting a shadow. I think I want the chin to be casting a shadow. What I should probably do though is put that on its own layer, and then we can control it and see if we want to dial it back at all. Because see, that seemed pretty intense. I like it, but it seemed pretty intense. So let's throw a layer on there and see what we can come up with. I think I want to put a little shadow right under here. And I think That's a little shadow like that. Make this brush a little harder, a little smaller. Yep. Let's go up to the pencil layer. And see, it's got some, next to Cain pencil layer, let's find that Able pencil layer. See that? A lot of extra texture in there because of that pencil drawing. So we might want to keep that, or might not. What do you all think? I think I like it. I think I want to tone it down just a little bit right up here. Just don't want so much of that. Oh, that's intense. So I might have to thrash it out. Okay, so I can come up here and use the Thrasher Blender tool and just get rid of some of that intensity without losing the darkness of it. I'm cool with that, I think. I almost feel like there'd be a little, let me go to this layer here, and I think we might want to put a little bit of this shine on his neck still. Let's get it back up to 100%. It's better to work at 100% so that we know. I don't mind zooming out, and I want to zoom out, and we need to zoom out while we're working so that we can kind of see what's happening with the canvas. But yep. There it is. I think I'm happy with that. So let's see what we got here. We got a bunch of layers. Let's try to stay organized. So this one is nothing. I added it because that's what I wanted it to be, but then we didn't add it there. This is some additional shadow. Man, it's a quiet night, and I feel tired. I feel like I want to go home and go to bed, but we got to keep painting. I'm not seeing shading here. Oh, there it is. I do see it. Shading on the shirt. Okay, we'll keep all that. I think we can merge down all this face shading and stuff because I don't think I'm going to edit that anymore. I think we're good. I'll put this inside the shirt. Yeah, that works. Let's see, what else we can do? Let's take this and get rid of it. Get rid of that. This was some additional lighting. I don't know if we need that though. Seems too intense. I'm gonna get rid of that. Get rid of that. I'll keep that for now. These guys, I don't think we need anymore. I kind of wanted to get that kind of rich, warm color out of Cain's face though. I kind of wonder if we can paint over it, the whole thing as a finished thing, and get that look. I might just take a little bit of that color. Gosh. Whatever color that is. It's just like a, there you go. And let's just see if we can apply that to this just as a big general thing. I just want to see what happens. This is going to be a total experiment. So look how creamy that is. That's kind of not the color I thought it would be. Definitely not the color I thought it would be. So let's try to blend that down and see what, if we can get something that approximates what we're looking for. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I think let's multiply. It's surprising how good multiply looks, honestly. I'd be curious what you guys think. I really want a nice warm tone, not only because I want it to be of a nice fleshy quality, but also because I just want it to look nice, obviously. I kind of like those colors. What do you guys think? Hey, how's it going? You'll have to I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I'm glad you're here. Thanks for saying hello. What do you think of this flesh color? So I'm experimenting with, see, I like it much better like this warm brown. What do you think? I think I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to clean this up a little. Are you working on Inktober? Oh, he's gone already. He is out of here. I see that this has a harsh edge here. We'll need to fix that. I like that. I like that this gives us the ability to kind of pull some of the color out where we don't want it. It's like I don't really want it in his eyes. Do you think that's an improvement? I think we're good. Let's zoom out and take a look from a little further away. Of course, we're working at 100%. I like working at 100% because it gives us, it's almost too vibrant. Let's take and tone that whole thing down a little. I just want a little bit of that warmth. Now we can, earlier I meant to get rid of some of this pencil line around the shoulder. We didn't do it, so we'll use the thrasher for that. And I can even try erasing it just a little bit, like 30%. And we could come back in and add some like golden highlights on it too, because of the golden sun. Alright, I think we're getting obsessive compulsive, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the warmth of this layer out from under the chin here, because under the chin there's going to be shadow. I'm just not going to have that same warmth quality. I like that. Okay, so let's move on. What we want to do next is we want to get some stripes and stuff on this tunic. And I actually had a picture I was going to use of myself wrapped in a towel. See if I can find it for us. Alright, so we're going to try to do some stripes on here, get a feeling for what that looks like. I definitely don't like sitting in a hole. I feel like I can't see what I'm looking at. But when I'm raised up like this, I have a much better view, but I feel like I end up being all slunched over and I'm going to ruin my back. So you got to do what's good for your health. But we'll try sitting up a little so I can see better. Alright, so what do we want to do for stripes? We can really do whatever we want. Most of the paintings that we were doing as quick sketching paintings, like when we were working on crystal, it really didn't matter what we did because no one could tell if the crystal is right or wrong. It's not like a person. Shall we try? Some of these are really effecty, and I don't really want much of an effect. Let's try this one. See what it looks like. I don't know. I haven't used it before. That's what we're here for, just to experiment. I think we're going to go with up here on the tunic. Clipped to the layer. Let's see what we can do here. Let's turn off the pencil for a minute. I think it needs to go way, way off. Alright. And then right here is the layer we're going to work on. Yep. And what I'd like to do is be able to work all on one layer pretty much. So as we layer on these stripes, that's going to give us more to blend with as we use our brushes, because these blender brushes really work best when they're blended together with other colors. So let's try maybe a blue. Much more neutral. There we go. Could probably be even more neutral, but we'll start with this and see. Let's do this darker, more neutral, a little warmer. I want to kind of get to where these colors look like they're wrapping around in a predictable understandable way, but also a logical way that is correct for the three-dimensional form. Because the stripes are really going to help us define that form. I think these need to be pushed over further. Before they wrap. Yep. Let's go back to the blue. Yeah, think about where these forms are. Blue is probably an unrealistic color to use. I feel like maybe it should be green or something. I'm just kind of making this up. I should be looking at my reference, I guess. Although the reference doesn't really tell me too much. I think I'm going to try one like this. This is kind of following the textures that were in the original pencil drawing and the directions of the original pencil drawing. And I was using the pencil drawing to kind of determine that for me, to kind of make those decisions in advance. But I think we can try it again and do it with a different set of lines. Let's turn this one off. And this time, Let's use some greens. See, is it like crazy bright? Kind of is. So let's try something a little more neutral. Neutral. I suppose that's not really the color I wanted, but I suppose that could work. So all right, I'll keep that color. Let's pick a counterpart in blue. No, let's do brown. Yep, that'll be fine. See now, too crazy, I think. I'm just totally not feeling that at all. Something's different. Something's got to be different. Let me see if I can find a different source image to look at. It's 7:30, but it feels like it's 10 o'clock. So I have a reference. I think I want to carve this down a little. Let's go to erase. It looks like if I want to carve this down, I might have some other stuff to deal with. Turn this off. No, that's all that's there. Interesting. So I should be able to carve this down. Let's see. Yep, there we go. That works. So it's because I had transparency blocked. So instead of it going down to nothing, it was going down to my background color. Any of your foreground and background colors programmed. I'm going to go with a hard brush and do a hard chisel removal of this tunic. Let's see what that looks like with our character turned on. I think that could work. It's a little hard to tell with all this other stuff turned on. Let's turn some of this other stuff off. Trees. Sky. So if we turn on our character now, I think we can get a feel for what we've got. And it seems like that should work. He's a little long in the waist. He's kind of got a long torso. So that means we have to fix this knee down here. I don't think that should be hard though. because there's not really much going on. I think we should be able to use a smudge tool, or even a brush tool. A tool like this. I think I'm just going to leave that all there so you can't see it and there's not like a weird pocket of color. Oh, my office is so hot. I kind of felt like I needed to change that for a long time. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It just seemed like a lot of hassle. But I feel like I needed it. Let's get rid of some of this ground stuff. Going to help us be able to see better what's going on and there's less other stuff going on. Just something like that would work maybe, although there's a little bit too much tone on tone with the dirt, so maybe just leave it like that for now. It gives us an idea of what's happening. Hello, thanks for joining us. Go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself down in the chat. I think we can turn off this pencil reference now too, because I feel like it's very different than the pencil, but we can at least clean that up, I guess, because we're clearly not going to use all that anymore. So I really like keeping as much of the pencil drawing in as much as possible, but in this case I think we're diverging sufficiently that we should just kind of carve this away and not have it be a distraction. And I feel like it's wrong on here too, so I think I'll get rid of this. What's happening up top seems fine, but what's happening down here seems like it's not quite right. We have the original, so we can always go back to that. Let's take a look at this tunic. Brush. It needs to just be a little wider here where it's coming off the knee. It doesn't really matter what the colors are, because we're going to, of course, paint in our own colors here in just a second. So that's the big thigh coming in. Has a very different feel. Now than it did before. I almost think it needs to be fatter up through here, because it almost looks like it's bent backwards, and we don't want that. There, I think that's good. So now let's add what kind of stripes we want. This is going to be a little easier to add the stripes, I think. So we'll create a new layer just for stripes. I think we had a layer that we were using, that we were going to use. So now I can try it out. Let's rotate this a little bit. My rotate doesn't work. What's that going on? That's strange. Yeah, it won't let me rotate. Well, I've rotated every other night, so I don't know what that's about. It's like it's freezing up. Maybe we should save it and quit before we end up with something wacky happening to us. So let's go ahead and save. Sometimes there's just too much stuff in its cache. I wonder if I have too many applications open. Let's just close this document. We can even quit this for a minute, and then let's bring it back and see if we can get our rotate to function. I've not had to do that before with this large document, but there's a first time for everything. There we go. There it works, see? Something was weird. I didn't like something. Problem solved. Now that doesn't work at all. Well, something's funky. We might have to call it a night. If I don't have to troubleshoot this. Let's see. This might mess up my feed, guys. Let me switch it over here to this so it doesn't mess up my feed. I'll have to see if I can reboot my Wacom tablet. Hello, thanks for joining us. You came in just as I'm having technical difficulties. So let's see if we can reboot this Wacom tablet. Hello, thanks for joining me. You came in just as I'm having to reboot my Wacom tablet, which is rare, and I really hardly ever have to do that. But what are you guys working on? Doing Inktober this year? You can introduce yourself in the chat. Let's see if I have functionality again. Yay! So, yeah. And apparently his brain just got wacky, so that was an easy fix. Little on-off action is all it took. Alright, so we were trying to get this oil painting of this tunic, torso, body wrap, whatever you want to call it. And we had kind of a green color that we were working with and a blue color. So let's pull those up and see what those look like. There's that color, X, get that color. So now they're both over here in these swatches. And we'll go ahead and disable that. Let me set it on to kind of see what colors we want to play with. And on this layer, we can label it as stripes. It's good to stay organized. And then we can paint in some stripes. So other than that it is stripey, I don't think we can really go wrong. So I'm gonna go shift close bracket, make my brush a little harder, and then just plain open bracket, make the brush a little smaller, and I can just carve that back a little. You could also do it with paint, which is how you would be doing it if it was real oils. And then let's try this brown color. So I have them both over here selected. So hit X to toggle, B to go back to our brush. We're using one of these real oil deluxe brushes, and it remembers that even though we've toggled in and out. Painting these all on one layer. I almost feel like I need to, it's much easier to paint them with them rotated like that because that's the direction my hand moves, but I almost feel like I need to back out and look at it and see that's too much curve down here, so I want to kind of get rid of some of that. So I could eyedropper that and just paint it in, paint it how I want it, but I'm just going to erase it because I can. And I can fix this one with paint. I think we're going to need to be able to see those curves and know what's happening. So we can really do any set of stripes we want. I guess I'll go back to green, see what happens. X to toggle, B for back for my brush. I like making it a little fat here where it's almost like stretched, and then it's going to come down and be a little bit thin as it is in perspective. Not too much, just a little bit. This is why it was easier to paint with it twisted the other direction, because this is a little bit awkward. Alright, switch back to this color. Now if we put in these stripes first, we can then go back and add any of the shading that we want. I have a reference photo, if you just joined me, and it's just me wearing a towel. It doesn't have any stripes on it though, so we're going to make that part up. Trying to decide where we want those stripes to be. All we can, the reference is just a white plain towel, so it'll give us some idea of shading, I think, when we get that far. X, come back in, tie this together a little straighter. I don't mind that it's a little you know, nondescript, because it's alright. Oil paint would probably be soft if it was on top of each other. So let's try, I think I want this to be a real fine stripe, so I'm just going to paint over this a little. It's going to blend a little. Like I said, that's alright. We're going to add more highlights and shadows to this as we go. What's nice about this particular brush is it almost behaves like a regular round brush, which if you wanted to paint with a regular round brush, you could. And I actually started this painting with a regular round brush just because that was the beginning of our exploration with oils, and I didn't really know what we were doing. But as you use these brushes more and more, you'll get a feel for them. You really, that's kind of the point of this channel. This is probably like the most boring set of tutorials you've ever seen, but the idea is that you're just trying to do the hard work of figuring out what each brush does. But it's just hard work in that it's frustrating to use a brush that you don't know what's happening or why it's happening, particularly when you're trying to actually get something done and accomplished in a timely manner. That's pretty frustrating. I just keep using X, and I'm just toggling back and forth. Toggling back and forth. I kind of like this pattern that we have of thick and thin. This will give us some flexibility because it's not all one size, and it allows us to hide some error. So now before I join these top and bottom shapes together, I think we need to kind of think about how these top shapes are going to be, because there's going to be some connectivity that needs to happen. So as I look at these shapes, I'm just going to draw this in with this brown. You know, I got some maybe turn down the flow a little bit. Let's see, turn down the load. No. Flow. keep saying flow and then doing something else. So let's actually do flow. See if that helps. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of paint in where I think the line should be. So kind of like this. Something like that. There's probably a line down there too, but we haven't got there yet. So this is all going to get covered up as I paint. So we can go ahead and paint now. And what we'll do is we'll paint these stripes in a way that wraps these shapes. So I can, let's put in the green. Oops, wrong color. I was like, why does it look so green? Or why does it look so brown? Well, there's a reason it looks so brown. This is going to get caught up in this fold here. Alright, now we can put in the brown. And when we come back and add the highlights in here, and the shadows, this will be a little more defined. For right now, it's just like a hint. I almost feel like I need to do these shadow things on their own layer just so that I can see them and remember where they are. Let's put it on multiply. I'm just going to trace them, because I think otherwise they're going to get lost. And this makes it easy to turn them off later. Like that. We didn't have that one in there, but I think it makes sense. Alright, so now we can add these stripes back in. So let's do the green. Start with the green first. And I don't like how that goes. I mean, we're totally just making this up, right? So, but so we can do kind of whatever we want. But I think this is gonna go right there, like that. Oops. All right, now let's X. It's interesting, sometimes when I paint, there's like hundreds of people. And sometimes when I paint, there's nobody. Or hardly anybody. And I feel like I'm talking to myself. So let's go back to green. No, more folds than that. These are subtle, they're not like heavy folds. They're just like creases, but do something like that. Alright, and we'll brush it in with brown. X for brown. I might need to erase out of here so that we can see better what's happening, because I don't think I can see very good. What's actually happening. We're still only at 50%, so we could zoom in tighter. So far, this is way more successful than anything we've done so far in regard to this tunic, which has been the bane of my existence for a while. So let's try green again and see where the stripe's going to fold. There's a lot of folds here, but I think it's going to be here. And switch over. I mean, when you watch these speed paintings, you know, in tutorials like that, and they're just like, and they're done. Hey, Key, how are you? Thanks for watching. Let's see, we'll switch to X. I think we should be able to get one more green stripe in here. A lot of folds here. I think we can squeeze one in. I almost feel like it's gonna go right And here. So Key, did I pronounce your name correctly? Correct me if I'm wrong. Where are you guys watching from? We're just working on getting these stripes in. We have these on a separate layer, so turn them off, turn them on, blur them out. Just didn't want to forget where they were. So now that they're there, we can use this. I think I'm happy with that. And we can use this as a means for determining what highlights we're going to add. It's pretty muted, so let's make sure that it's going to be okay with everything else that's going on. It's got a nice painterly quality to it, I think. I'm not sure if I like those colors though. I don't know what other colors I'd make them. I didn't want them to be the same as what we had. We could try. I cannot line that up. Reset. Okay. We could try. Just a hue color correction and see what we get. If there's something mind-blowing, interesting that we'd want to try instead. All of this is weird, I think. I mean, I could see doing something like that, maybe. Just because it's so much contrast. Even something like that, but it's too much blue. Yeah. Let's try some curves. I mean, it could be black, but I think that's too dark. Pull some red. There's just like a one note. There's just not a whole lot here to manipulate even. It's like a one note wonder. I don't think I like any of that. So we're back to this. It's funny how it didn't look that muted when we painted it. Strange, isn't it? We can also try a blend mode. No. You know, the hardest part about this was just kind of figuring out where the stripes needed to be. So now that we have the stripes on here, we could make these any colors we wanted, frankly. The problem is I just don't know what colors we want. This green and weird brown, though, I'm not really feeling it. But it's okay. I think we should move on. I'm really tempted to just pick one of these colors and make it the same, even though that was not what I intended to do originally. Look how muted that is. Let's pick a different brush. Cake brush. I'm doing that on the stripe layer by mistake. I mean on my guide layer by mistake. There we go. I think that will work. Why not? Let's go a little more muted. A little more navy. Hello, thanks for joining. A little more muted. Yeah. I think we can work with that. So let's add. Kind of want to make this be a dual color brush if I can. No, it won't let me do it for this brush. But what I can do is eyedropper more than one color. Like that. Alright. And then blend it in. That's all just nonsense though, really, because we're gonna put the colors in that we need for our highlights and shadows when we do the lighting layers. We just needed to figure out what colors we were going to do to kind of get this kicked off in the right direction. Kind of like working with this giant brush, but on the other hand, it's a little bit hard to control. When it's so big, it also makes it kind of sluggish. It's not as responsive. Actually, you know what? I really like that. Kind of like offset with 3 colors. Let's see if we can do that here. That was not what I was originally going for. But it looks good, I guess. What do you guys think? You tell me. You got a little audience, so that means you have large voting power. Right? Because your vote can't get outweighed by somebody else's vote. Since there's nobody else to outvote it, I'll vote you. I've got a really high flow rate. I might turn that down a little bit. That just makes it look a little more painterly if the flow rate is a little bit on the low side, and it also gives me a little bit more blending. And right now I'm not blending at all with my background because I've got this completely on a separate layer, but it's still blending. With itself. And this is probably hand woven. Oh, obviously, it's hand woven. So, what I was thinking of was like knit, hand knit. The fact that they're all a little bit off isn't really a problem. This probably isn't knit though, it's probably woven fabric. It might be. Like too advanced for this time period, but I don't think so. I do not think so at all. Now, since this is on its own layer, this is something that we can definitely do some color corrections on. Hello, thanks for joining me. 안녕하세요. That's the most Korean that I know, so don't get too excited. Are you joining us from Korea? 안녕하세요. Looks like they're not even here anymore. They're just channel surfing. That's okay. Everybody's welcome. Just pop in, say hello. That's alright with me. Let's turn these off. Let's see what that looks like. I think it looks alright. No. This we can adjust if we want. Everything's so muted. I don't know if I want it that muted. What do you guys think? Muted? Not muted. I think I want to come in with a brighter. I think I like muted. You guys got to tell me what you're thinking. All these colors are so awful. I think I want a more purposeful and intense brown. Let's see. I also have these color swatches we could pick from. Get like a burnt sienna. It'd be cool if these were named, but they're not. Let's go back up to like 100% so we can see what we're looking at. Like I want this to look neat. And I want it to look painterly, but I don't want it to be, like, to me, painterly isn't just a sloppy mess. Let's go up to 100%. There. Now I can see what's going on a little better. Hello. Thanks for stopping by. Oh, we put it beneath the blue. We don't want it to be beneath the blue. We want it to be above the blue. Oh, well, actually, this one is above the blue. So this is what we're adding. Is right here. See, I don't know that it's going to be visible that whole time. It might be like lost in a fold there. I definitely feel like this one's going to be lost in a fold. Hello. Thank you for joining me. We're trying to emulate the look of oil painting and see what we can get here. We're about to add some highlights and some shadows. We've got kind of a base layer laid in, and we've been working all pretty much on one layer for this particular element. And now we're going to come up above everything and drop some highlights on. So we can grab, I think, a real golden kind of color, and we can add in the highlights that are on the side of the body here from the sun hitting it, and then we can add some additional shadows and highlights. Normally I actually add all my highlights last and start with shadows, so let's try that. I've got a reference photo just of me wrapped in a towel that we can look at, and we can get an idea of where those lights and darks are. I had the reference photo on my phone, and my phone turned off, so we have to find that photo again. And then what's cool about this is that it's just me in a white towel, so there's no indication of shading, or no indication of stripes or anything. It's just going to be the lighting that we need. Okay, so this is like a ridiculous photo of me standing in a white towel, but in a similar pose to what we've got here. So we can use this kind of for our lighting, and what's really great is the lighting is fairly similar to what we're trying to do in our image. So let's start with some darks. I'm on a separate layer. We can label it to stay organized and call it the shadow layer. And it's also nice to put it in like a multiply mode. That's going to make it super dark, super fast, and allow us to work basically all in one color. I could probably eyedropper this brown that we started with, or even just pick a brown. It probably doesn't matter too much, because when we're in multiply mode, it's just going to blend in with what's there already. So let's turn down our flow a little bit and bring up our brush size. I'm using one of the oil brushes that Kyle Webster made. This is the cake brush. I kind of like Bristly Bob, or even Bristle drag. Let's go with Bristly Bob here. If you haven't experimented with these brushes, it really takes quite a bit of experimentation to get a sense for how they work. So I'm going to turn down the flow even more. See, we're in a different brush now, so the flow reset, which is nice that it always goes back to the default settings. But if you thought you did something and then change brushes, suddenly you won't have done it anymore. Now this is bringing in a really warm shadow, because I'm working with a warm color. So I think let's switch to doing kind of a cool shadow. Start with a kind of a cerulean, maybe make it a little more muted, maybe a lot more muted. Let's see what that looks like. I think that could work for us. I'm going to turn the flow down even more. I have just barely any color coming out. Let's go back to cake brush and see how that compares. Next with a high flow again. I think this will be cool. And what's nice about this, if you look at it really closely, is that, I don't know if you can guys see that? Oh, let me switch over. I was having problems with my monitor earlier and I never switched back. So let me let you see what I'm seeing. There we go. That'll be way easier. I think this guy isn't showing us anything. Alright, so this brush, the cake brush, has the texture built into it. So, and it's going to be the matching texture to what I was doing before. So this is all going to be kind of in alignment. So let's zoom back out. Somebody should have said something. Said you couldn't tell me you couldn't see. Don't forget to say hello and introduce yourself. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat at the same time that I'm working here. Let's go ahead and just select all that we've done on this layer, this shadow layer, and just get rid of it because we were, so that's going to be Command A, Command X to clear. And so now our shadow layer is set back to 0. I'll use the space bar so my brush turns into a hand temporarily and I can move this around. So if my image is still available and my phone likes to turn off, it has a very short lifespan. There it is. Alright, so if you're just joining me, we're using this reference image of me and a towel so we can have an idea of what the lighting is. Alright, so for shadow, we're just going to block in kind of some big shapes. So there's going to be shadow here coming down across the kneecap. I think it's just going to kind of follow up and then go into these creases. Now, one thing that happens with these brushes that have a lot of texture built into them is that they tend to be on a little bit of a delay because they've got to figure out all that stuff. So they don't run as fast or as seamlessly as, say, a brush that has no texture built in. And see, I can just paint right across this whole shape because I've got over here, I've got this layer in a clipping mask where it's clipping to the shape beneath, and my shape beneath is going to define, hey, you're from New Jersey, Kathleen. I am originally from New Jersey. Where are you in New Jersey? If you don't want to tell me the city, you can tell me the exit off of the New Jersey Turnpike. The most southerly exit on the New Jersey Turnpike is usually the 2, but it's not really the 2 because the Delaware Memorial Bridge is the 1. Hope, New Jersey. All right, awesome. I was from Cumberland County, down near Vineland and Millville, in Bridgeton, New Jersey, before I moved to California, and then ultimately now here I am in Oklahoma. So east, west, and now I'm in the middle. Go figure. I never would have thought I'd be here. Thank you for joining me. Are you guys working on Inktober? Is this your distraction? Are you procrastinating from working on Inktober? Where's everybody else from? I'm going to put in some belly shadow here. It's not actually part of this shape, and I'm primarily focusing on this shape, but so if you're wondering what I'm looking at here, I've just got this kind of ludicrous photograph of myself. You can see that. Standing in a towel, and it's a white towel, so we're using that. There's no texture, no stripes or anything, but we're using that as just kind of as a guide as to where to put the lighting. And I'm using this cake brush from the Real Oils brushes that Kyle Webster made. They're free with Photoshop. You just have to go in and download them. And just laying in how we want this lighting to be. The photograph that I took as reference is pretty similar for the lighting, but it is, I think, more lit than this. I'll show you what we're working on. I got a million things here, so let's see if I can turn them all off. Okay. So this was the pencil illustration that we started with. And I've been working on this for a while. Did the pencil drawing with the digital media emulator in Adobe Fresco with an iPad and Apple Pencil. Okay, and then brought that into Photoshop because I want this to be a really large poster. It's going to be about 18 by 24 at 300 dpi, so it's giant and would be too much file to try to process on an iPad. So brought it in here, threw in a white background, threw in some gesso texture, which looks really awesome. If you can see all that beautiful gesso texture, and we actually painted that texture in a way that was in line with the perspective. So the texture of the paintbrush helped us define the perspective for the space. And then we threw in some sky. And this is where we really started to experiment with getting these oil textures and trying to figure out if we could get oil brushes to work for us. So there's a lot of brushes. There's almost 2,000 brushes that you can get for free with Photoshop, but until you actually play with them and experiment with them, it's hard to know what they do. And in Fresco, you've got the digital media emulator, and that media emulator really does a lot of the work for you in terms of like the impasto effects and how the paint blends. But here in Photoshop, you don't have that media emulation engine, so you really have to use a different brush to kind of create the look of every single different sort of brush stroke and smudge and smear. You got to get a different brush. So that means you have to be really intimately aware of what the brushes do. So my video streams are probably the most boring video stream that you'll ever watch because it's just me painting for hours. But hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. And you know, we're trying to go through a different paintbrush every night. I paint about 30 minutes every night, except for Wednesdays and Thursdays. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, I paint from 6 to 9 Central, so that's almost 3 hours of painting on Wednesdays and Thursdays. But on the other nights of the week, I try to do a different paintbrush each evening so that we can get a sense for what they do together and figure it out. It's a journey. All right. Where's everybody else from? Kathleen's from Hope, New Jersey. Put in the chat where you're from. So I blocked in just some real painterly foreground, dirt, and then I wanted kind of a oil and vinegar kind of mix look, and so we kind of blotched that in, and also started to experiment with this grass business and some shadows. And then I wanted a really dark set of trees over here on the left, and I just wanted that foliage to kind of be as a background. I didn't want too much detail in there. There's a lot of nice textural detail, but there's not a whole lot of like actual foliage detail. So anyway, I like how it turned out. Anyhow, now we're working on our characters. So we've got this guy on the ground here, and we've worked him over, I don't know, 2 or 3 days. Just, you know, a little each night. And then now we're working on this figure here, working on his clothes. So this is where we're at. This is where you were joining me on this journey, is trying to figure out how to get oils to look like oils in Photoshop. And we're just painting away here. Now this outfit is already pretty dark, so I'm not going to worry about making it too dark, but this is the layer we're working on right now. I'm just painting, we did blocked in all the basic shapes. So let's see if I can find all that. I just blocked in a basic shape, okay, of the tunic, and then experimented with some stripes. Wasn't super thrilled, so then I layered in some more stripes, and now we're layering in some shadow. Okay, so this is just right on top of everything, and we're gonna make it work. I'm going to get I think a bigger brush. It helps when I hold my phone because it tends to not fall asleep and we don't lose our reference image. So talk to me, guys. What do you want to know? What have you been watching? You been watching other feeds tonight? Learning anything interesting? Alright, I think I'm good with that. I could make an even darker dark by darkening the brush that we're working with. I was just working with this kind of medium cerulean, but we could go into like a really dark color. I don't really want to get too crazy, but I do want to push a few of these shadows right kind of in here. I think I would have to do that though with my smaller brush. Again, so that's going to be open bracket. Open bracket makes the brush size go down. Makes the brush size go down. Makes the brush size go down. Little Mary Poppins for you. Notice as I rotate my brush, this particular brush stays with me, which is really nice. I might leave this very painterly and kind of just abstract. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and get a totally different brush. So this is all the real oils. I'm going to go up here to the very top in the Mega Pack in the paint box section. There's a thing called the Thrasher, and man, it just blows everything out of the water when you do it. So you ready? Okay, I'm going to zoom in so you can see what's happening. Okay, so I got all this nice canvas texture, but when I just hit this, it just blows that all up. That might even be too much. Just a little bit, that's all I need. Just to soften it. Just a little. A little smaller, have a little more control. There. And I can also go on this layer and soften that up underneath. Maybe a little smaller. A little more control. There's something wacky going on there. I might even need to repaint that a little bit because there's too much wackiness happening. I could probably just darken it a little. Go back to my brush. It remembers where I was. I'm gonna check my flow, check my size, and see if I just darken that a little. Just gonna hide that, which I'm okay with that. I'm gonna come in and erase out a little bit of a highlight here. Too much. Let's do, no, we'll just leave it there for now. All right, I like that. I think it's gonna be, I kind of think I need to go way darker, but before I like screw this up and make it not any good, maybe we could try it making it way darker on a different layer. Oh, thanks, Kathleen. You know, I have found that, like I said, this is either the most boring podcast you've ever seen, or hopefully you find it interesting, but the tutorials that are normally out there typically really just kind of gloss over stuff from like a categorical level. Like they say, oh, these brushes function this way and these brushes function that way, but they don't really tell you kind of how each brush works or what the names of the brushes are. They're just like flying around a million miles an hour. and it's hard to know what is going to be applicable to your own painting. And so when I started painting, I thought, this would be cool. I wish somebody had, just kind of showed me what they did. So the Thrasher is what we used earlier, and we could try this wet blender this time. This is a little bit different. It's a little more blotchy, like you might expect. And I see that how it was like blotchy, almost like if you're a watercolor person, how the color kind of runs out to the edges of the watercolor when you have it really wet. See that? Now, I don't want to make this thing too dark. I don't know what's happening. Let's try the Thrasher here for a second. I don't know, I feel like it's losing its form. Let's go back to B for brush, and it just hops me back immediately to where I was. I think this is almost looking like a pooch. I don't want it to be poochy. So this is on its own layer. So what's beautiful about that is I can just do something crazy and then turn it down. So if I hit V for the move tool and then hit any of the numbers, so in this case 5, it's going to cut it down in opacity. So I'm automatically controlling the opacity control over here. So if I hit like 7, 2, I can just kind of dial it in, see what I like. So 0 would be back to 100. Often I'll add darks and darks and darks, and then until it gets muddy and yucky, and I decide, oh, this isn't really looking that great. But then when you go back and add the highlights, it all kind of comes together. So let's cross our fingers and see if this looks good when I add highlights in. I spent most of the night here painting and talking to myself, so it's nice that a bunch of you joined me. So thanks for hopping in. We're gonna call this the shadow layer, and then this one is also shadows. This was actually stripes, I think. Yeah, it was my blue stripes. It's good to stay kind of organized as you go, or otherwise you're going to get really lost really quickly. So I used to go down to the Jersey Shore every summer. Kathleen, would you go down to the shore very often? Summer's coming to an end. I used to go to Ocean City usually. So this is the one we were going to use for our highlights. So I also will tell you, just coincidentally, while I have, let me save this before I screw it up. Saving. So this Inktober prompt painting in oil is what I'm working on other nights of the week. So I just spend 30 minutes, usually like 5:30 to 6, like Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, and trying to do quick oil sketch paintings. And I'd like to work towards doing like some animals and like some impasto kind of stuff. So feel free to hop in and join me on those nights, or look for my feeds, my recorded feeds. I also archive stuff on YouTube in like playlists so that they're a little easier to find. Anyway, we're going to do highlights. So I'll spend maybe another 15 minutes or so. I'm going to switch over to Bristly Bob, I think, because it's a real coarse kind of texture. And let's pick from our color picker here. Now this Casey Garza is a pack of colors that's supposed to emulate like tubes of oil paint, and I just downloaded that for free. It was on like DeviantArt. You can find it. Oh, you moved there when you got married. Okay, awesome. I moved when I got married too. Not out of New Jersey or to New Jersey, but from California to elsewhere in California. Let's see. Let's pick something Let's go with something white-ish. Maybe a little more neutral-ish. And maybe a little warmer-ish. And let's compare it to our source image. And look where we want our highlights to be. It's definitely going to be some strong highlight in here. Let me move this up above the shadows. Yeah, that's what I want. But by the way, I have my bottom button set to eyedropper and my top button set to undo. That makes it really easy to navigate this stuff. So we've got our flow set up high. Let me turn that down a little bit. Get a little bigger. So how long have you been in New Jersey? I'm going to switch our blend mode here to something like screen or usually I use screen, but I'm not feeling it. Let me try something here. Not feeling that either. Overlay. Nope. Now I got that wacky color in there, so I'm gonna hit L and just less that, Command X, makes it go away. Oh, well, congratulations. That's been over 15 years, right? No? Yeah? I don't know, I can't do math and paint at the same time. That's pretty awesome. Marriage is hard work. So definitely takes effort, takes practice. I like painting, I guess. Like slow. Slow and takes practice. I'm really not feeling these highlights at all. Usually when I do the highlights, I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. Love it. In this case, my highlights kind of look awful. I have to say, I might be able to cheat with opacity. Get a really big brush. See, I've got reflected light happening in my photo. And I wonder if we can't have a little bit of that happen in this too. I don't think that's too much. I think I want just the median to be the highlight, if that makes any sense. The median tone to be the highlight for this darker area. I think that's good. Now I still do want a more intense highlight. I don't know, what do you guys think? Be brutally honest. I got 300 people, 300 harsh critics. Tell me what you think. Does that lighting look terrible? I kind of think it does. Let's get some of this bright. Let's get it right out of our own painting. I always like to pull it right out of the painting, especially since it's supposed to be sunlight. And let's just hit the edge of this. All right, now we're going to go up and smooth it out. Oh, thanks. I like I think I like it. I don't know. Do you think the shadows are too dark? This is weird. I'm going to throw that away. Keep turning that on. I think it kind of needs those shadows right there. It's just so dark. I don't know what to think. I guess we could get away without those shadows. Could probably punch these trees back a little in this ground. I haven't really resolved the ground issue over here, so I've got middle ground. Man, even that looks cool. It's hard to know, you know, you work on stuff and then you have these little happy accidents like, oh, well, actually it looks better without all the work I just did. What do you think, ground texture or no ground texture? I almost wonder if I want to just mask some of this off. So I just put a layer mask on that group. This is allowing me to bring in some light right here, like shining in. Just a little bit, and then I can also take, that substantially increases my image file size, but whatever. This file is already ridiculously big anyway. So this is 18 by 24 and 200 dpi, so it's pretty massive. It's actually a weird size, 17.5 by 24.8, and that's because it's an A2 paper for European distribution. Let's add right here a new layer and put in just some shadowy stuff. Looks good. Something kind of some burnt sienna, kind of, but more muted. And let's see what we can do here. Let's put it above the trees. And then put that on multiply. And then finger command for that is Command Option, or Option Shift M. And then we'll thrash it back out with a big one. That might have been enough highlight to kind of make this work for us. We can try a little bit of opposite highlight. So we just put in a little highlight by his pants, and then it went dark. And maybe we need, should we make his pants a little lighter up there? It'll highlight to his pants. I don't know why he would have a highlight there. I mean, probably not very realistic. But if it makes the picture look good, I guess that's all that matters, right? Let's use Illustration King. Okay, this should have some texture in it. And we should be able to use kind of a neutral. I might need, since we're doing something experimental, let's make a new layer for it, because why ruin, why cry later? So there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for this shadow to exist right here, or this highlight, but Option Shift S is screen, let's try overlay, Option Shift O, go back to normal, let's turn it off. See how that just brought out a little bit? Man, I think that was what we needed. Let's go to find our shadow layer right here, and let's thrash out this a little bit. It's just a little too intense. Let's see what we're doing by getting in a little better. You can also use the blur and smudge. Let's try this bristle smudge. So what this is going to do is going to give me really bristly, kind of draggy quality. See, I'm dragging that around. Keeps it real painterly, which is nice. Almost like I was doing a dry brush. I think that that might have solved our issue. Just lighten it up just enough with that kind of bouncing around light that's happening at this twilighty time. Bristle smudge, and this should follow me. Yeah, it does. So now we turned off this shadow. I think we can still use this shadow. We just need to turn it down a little. So hit V to remove tool, or the effect doesn't work. Hey, if you guys are willing, I mean, no pressure, but if you're willing, you know, hit that follow button or that like or appreciation or whatever it is. And then I think with follow in particular, you'll get, I think it'll tell you when I stream again in the future. So if you want to see how this painting turns out as I continue to work on it. So we are almost done. I've got to do the torso of Cain. Let me turn off the tree so you can see what the torso looks like. Boom. There he is. We are so close. We're so close. I'm about to call it a night, but before I go, please hit that follow button, and I will probably be working on the crystals painting that I showed you. Probably working on that tomorrow, and that's really easy and really fun. There's no wrong answers because it's not figures. It's a really fun thing if you want to, you know, kind of paint along with me. You can't really do it wrong because there's just a bunch of refracted light and stuff shining everywhere. So, you know, you can just kind of go crazy and put in highlights and shadows, and it's a fun thing to do. And we're blocking it in with the lasso tool, so it's really easy to kind of be in the right shapes. You don't have to worry about having amazing drawing ability or anything. So, you know, join me for those. It'd be awesome to see you again. Stop by and say hello anytime. I try to be here almost every weekday evening, and like I said, on Wednesdays and Thursdays I do the long 3-hour painting process on this. So I'll be working on this again next Wednesday. So thank you so much for joining me and stopping by and say hello. You all have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.